Some storms don't come to destroy you, my friends. They come to wake you up. Let that one sit for a second. Because maybe you've been wondering, why hasn't it happened for you yet? You've done what they told you, haven't you? You tried to be graceful, but not too cold, warm, but not too much. You smiled without seeming desperate. You dressed for attention, but prayed to be seen for your soul. You held back, you waited, you gave your body carefully, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you gave it hoping this time it would mean something real, but still you were passed over, unseen, and like a beautiful song stuck on mute while everyone danced to noise. And now you're here wondering quietly, am I too much, too deep, too soft, too late? What's wrong with me? Let me say this loud and clear. Nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just in a season the world doesn't talk about, the season where the body goes quiet because the soul is about to speak. See, most people think silence means failure. They'll say she's dry, she's lonely, she must be giving off the wrong energy. But what if that silence isn't rejection, it's redirection? What if your soul is whispering, not yet? Not him, not like this. It's wild how they never told us the truth. They sold you a map full of shortcuts. Be prettier, act chill, flirt, but don't feel too much. Stay sexy, but not serious. They said if you played your cards right, love would knock. But no one warned you that real love doesn't knock on doors that haven't even opened for themselves. Let me give you a better picture. Imagine a garden in winter. Nothing seems alive. The trees look bare. The ground is frozen. But under that cold earth, something is shifting. Roots are strengthening. Seeds are waiting for the right sun. That's you right now. You're not lacking, you're loading. And guess what? That loading phase, it scares people. Because a woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't throw herself into shallow pools just to feel wet, she becomes mysterious, unreachable, a little dangerous. And not because she's closed off, but because she's finally learning to protect the fire instead of giving away the match. So if you're in a season where you're not giving your body, where you're not dating around, where you're not being picked, don't see it as punishment, see it as preparation. Because the woman who learns to hold herself in silence becomes a storm no one can sleep through when she finally moves. You don't need to be chosen to be valuable, and you don't need another text to feel wanted. You need to hear yourself again. And that only happens when the world quiets down and you stop trying to fill every silence with someone else's validation. So stay with me, my friends, because what's coming next, it's not about strategy or seduction. It's about awakening. We're going deep, we're going real, and we're not leaving any part of you behind. If this message is already stirring something in you, do me a favor, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Not just to support this space, but to commit to the version of you that's finally rising. You're not behind, you're just beginning. And beginning is a powerful thing. Number one, the invisible woman, the ache of being overlooked. A diamond doesn't shine in the dark because it wants to be ignored. It shines because it's built for pressure most people can't survive. Let that settle, my friends, because if you've ever felt invisible, this is for you. You've sat in rooms where your laughter wasn't echoed, posted photos that didn't get noticed, watched friends fall in love while you tried not to feel like the only one always waiting. You did your hair, your heart, your healing. You worked on your energy, your boundaries, your mindset. You did everything the books, the podcasts, and the aunties said, and still you were overlooked. And after a while, that ache starts to whisper questions you don't even want to admit out loud. Like, is it me? Am I not desirable? Is love just not in the cards for someone like me? But let me tell you something you haven't been told. You were never meant to be background noise in someone else's playlist. You're the song they won't be ready for until they've grown ears to hear truth. Think of a lighthouse in the middle of a storm. It doesn't blink just because the boats pass by without stopping. It doesn't turn off because no one docked today, and it keeps shining because it knows it's not here to chase ships, and it's here to guide the ready ones. And you feel invisible not because you're not enough, but because you were never built to play in shallow water. You were built for depth, for presence, for truth. And not everyone is ready to meet a woman who isn't begging to be seen, but learning to see herself. And I get it, your mind might push back right now. But what if no one ever chooses me? What if being strong means I'll always be alone? What if I missed my chance? No, my friend, you didn't miss it. You outgrew the version of love that would have found you before. You're not invisible, you're sacred. And sacred things are never put on display too soon. You're not late, you're being refined. You're not unwanted, you're being preserved. And if this is what being overlooked feels like imagine what's coming when the right ones finally see you. So stay with me, because next we're talking about what really happens when you finally stop performing for connection and start hearing your soul's real voice. Number 2, the withdrawal, where the world starts losing grip. The day she stopped explaining herself, the world got nervous, because silence from a woman who once begged to be seen is louder than any scream. Feel that in your chest, my friends, and because this is the part they don't talk about, and one day it just changes. You don't rage, you don't post a dramatic quote, you don't even cry about it the way you used to. You just pull back, not in bitterness, but in quiet clarity. You stop answering late-night texts from men who never knew your middle name, and you stop overthinking your outfits, your emojis, your worth. You stop forcing chemistry with people who only know how to meet you halfway, and suddenly your world starts to shift. People ask, are you okay? You used to go out more. You should try putting yourself out there again. Translation, you're making me uncomfortable by not performing the way you used to. But they don't know, this wasn't a strategy. This was your soul taking the wheel. This was your nervous system saying, no more auditions, we're done tap dancing for breadcrumbs. Carl Jung said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. And girl, when you started withdrawing, that was your awakening starting to whisper. The truth is, you didn't stop dating, you stopped settling. You didn't stop trying, you stopped twisting. You walked away not to hide, but to hear. And yeah, it gets lonely sometimes. You'll scroll through photos of people who look like they've moved on. You'll wonder if being chosen is still the game and if you're losing. But let me tell you this, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're breaking a pattern. The cycle ends with you. You're no longer addicted to being wanted. You're learning to want yourself without a crowd clapping for it. And that scares people, because a woman who doesn't need validation to feel alive, that's the woman who starts making real choices, not reactive ones. So stay with me, my friends, because what's coming next, it's where the silence gets even deeper, and you meet a version of yourself that no relationship ever gave you permission to become. Number 3, the shadow, meeting the you that no one else ever has. The scariest mirror you'll ever face isn't the one in your bathroom, it's the one silence holds up when no one else is watching. Let that echo for a moment, my friends, because when the noise fades, the texts stop, the attention quiets, the distractions dry up, that's when the real voice shows up. And it's not always kind. It's the voice that whispers at 1:34 a.m., why didn't he pick me? What did she have that I didn't? Was I too much or was I never enough? It's a loop, a highlight reel of old conversations, unanswered messages, nights you gave too much of yourself, hoping to finally feel seen. And now, with no one to perform for, it's just you and the questions. But here's what most people won't tell you. That voice isn't cruelty, it's a signal. It's not your weakness rising, it's your unconscious knocking. The part of you that got silenced while you were learning to be chill, desirable, chill, low maintenance, unbothered. She's not crazy, she's returning. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the pieces of your truth that got buried to fit the mold. The version of you that got edited out because she was too intense and too loud, too real. But here's the secret. Your shadow isn't trying to ruin you. She's trying to rescue you. She's the one who still remembers what you actually want, not what you were taught to settle for. And I won't sugarcoat it. This part is tough, because when you stop blaming men for not choosing you, you have to face the version of you that kept handing over your worth like it was a raffle ticket. But don't run from this, because this is where the gold is. This is where transformation begins, not on a date, not in a text thread, but right here in the dark with you. And maybe you're thinking, but if I go that deep, what if I don't come back the same? Good, you're not supposed to, because the woman who faces her shadow, she doesn't just attract better love, she becomes it. So stay with me, because next we're going somewhere even more raw, to the part of you that misses connection so much, it almost starts to crave the wrong kind again. Number 4, the slow starvation when you miss even the wrong love. You don't crave him, you crave the version of you that felt wanted, even if it was a lie. Sit with that, my friends, because this one cuts close to the bone. And we all say we want real love, but sometimes we miss the fake kind, the late night text from someone who never asked how your soul was doing, but still made your phone light up like it mattered. The flirtation that meant nothing, but felt like something in the moment. The almost relationship that gave you just enough to stay hopeful, but never enough to be held. And now in the quiet, you start to feel it, a kind of hunger that creeps in slow. You miss being touched even by someone who never saw past your body. You miss being talked to, even if it was only when they were bored. You miss being chosen, even if it was by someone who wouldn't stay. Let me tell you right now, you are not weak for missing the wrong love. You're human. You're built for connection. And your heart doesn't know how to calculate logic when it's starved for presence. But hear me, my friend, what you're missing isn't him. It's the feeling of being wanted. It's the illusion of being enough, even if it was temporary. That ache, it's not just loneliness, it's withdrawal. And the truth is, you don't want him back, you want you back. The you who didn't second guess every text. The you who wasn't trying to decode mixed signals like it was a full-time job. The you who didn't have to shrink to keep someone interested. That hunger, it's not for a man. It's for your own return. Because once you taste even a drop of your own worth, real worth, you'll never trade it for breadcrumbs again. You'll stop craving what almost felt like love. And you'll start preparing for the kind that doesn't come to fill a void. It comes to meet a woman who is already full. So stay with me, my friends, because next we're stepping into the most sacred part of this silence, and the space where you're not starving anymore and you're standing guard. Number 5, the vigil, the sacred wait that no one applauds. They called it a drought, but maybe it was a drought sent by heaven to make you grow roots instead of chasing rain. Let that settle, my friends, and because what you're in right now, that it's not just a phase, it's not a dry spell. It's a vigil, a sacred wait. The world doesn't clap for, doesn't understand, and doesn't celebrate. You didn't plan for it. You didn't wake up one morning and say, "Today I choose celibacy." It wasn't some holy Instagram challenge. Life handed it to you. One heartbreak at a time, one ghosted message at a time, one moment of being almost loved but never truly seen at a time. And now you're here, still alone, still quiet, and still wondering on some nights, is this strength or just sadness in disguise? Let's be real, this road has cost you. It's cost you connection. Nights when the silence felt so loud it echoed. It's cost you explanations because people keep asking why you're still single like it's a diagnosis. It's cost you the easy comfort of company that wasn't built to stay. But I'm here to tell you something that might just shift the way you see all of it. This wasn't punishment, this was protection. Because the woman you were becoming, she needed space, she needed stillness. She needed all that noise to die down so her own voice could rise up. And yes, it's been quiet, but that quiet has been doing sacred work. You haven't just been waiting for love, you've been waiting for you. Every time you chose not to go back to someone who half loved you. Every time you turned down a "you up" message that used to make you feel wanted. Every time you sat through a Friday night alone without breaking your own boundaries. You weren't being passive, you were being present. Holding space for your body to stop giving without receiving. Holding space for your soul to come back into the room. And no, the world won't applaud you for this kind of strength, but the woman you're becoming, she will. So stay with me, my friends, and because up next, we're going from hunger to fire. This is where the ache turns into alchemy. Number 6, the rising when hunger turns to overflow. She no longer chases fire to stay warm because one day she realized she was the fire. Feel that, my friends, and because this is the moment the whole journey starts to make sense. There comes a day, quiet, unannounced, where something inside you shifts. You're not even sure when it happened. You just wake up and the ache is gone, and not because you've numbed it, not because someone finally picked you, but because you stopped looking out there for something that was always supposed to be lit in here. It used to feel like hunger. That gnawing desire to be wanted, to be chosen, to be called beautiful by someone who didn't even know your soul's name. You used to scroll through old texts, hoping maybe, just maybe, they'd reach out again. But now you crave something different. You don't need to be chased. You want to be met. You don't need someone to make you feel alive. You want someone who sees that you already are. This is the rise. This is where the thirst turns to discernment, where the attention you used to crave now feels like noise, where you stop asking, do they want me, and start asking, do they even know how to hold what I carry? And this is alchemy. Carl Jung called it transmutation, the process where raw pain becomes refined power. You didn't just sit in silence, you cooked in it. You didn't just fast from love, you reforged what love means. And now you're not looking for sparks, you're looking for resonance. Someone whose presence doesn't just excite you, but expands you. The old you wanted attention. This you, she wants alignment, and the old you needed proof, and this you is the proof. So if people start saying you've changed, thank them, because they're right. You've changed from empty to full, from desperate to discerning. You no longer chase warmth from others, you radiate it from your own healed fire. Stay with me, my friends, because up next, we're going to talk about what happens when you stop needing to be chosen because you finally understand the sacred power of not being picked. Number 7, the power of not being chosen. Rejection isn't always a door closing. Sometimes it's God whispering, not this hallway, baby. I've got a palace in the making. Let that thunder in your chest, my friends. Because this part right here, this is where the wound becomes the weapon. You spent years wondering what was wrong with you, why they liked your pictures but never pursued you, why they called you wifey energy but only when it was convenient, why they chose someone else, someone louder, softer, easier, anything but you. But let's flip that pain and look it in the face. You weren't overlooked because you lacked something. You were overlooked because you weren't for everywhere. Because the world didn't know what to do with a woman who doesn't perform to be loved. You weren't picked. Thank God you weren't picked. Because those moments that felt like rejection, they were divine redirections. Every time you got passed over, the universe was saying, not here, not small, not this half-life. You weren't meant to be someone's plan B. You weren't made to be tolerated. You were born to be recognized. And here's the twist they never saw coming. The woman who learns how to hold herself through not being chosen, she becomes untouchable. Not because she's unavailable, but because she's finally whole. You can't bait her with breadcrumbs anymore. You can't dangle temporary comfort in front of her and expect her to fold. She doesn't fall for almost. She walks with certainty. And yes, people might call her intimidating, but intimidation is what power looks like when someone isn't used to seeing a woman who doesn't need permission to shine. Let me say this plain. You didn't get passed over. You got protected, prepared, positioned. Because when your time comes, and it will come, it won't be halfway, and it won't be hidden. It'll be clear, mutual, and undeniable. So stay with me, my friends, because next, we're not returning to the world the same. We're coming back not to find love, but to become it. Number 8, the return when she walks in full, not empty. She's not coming back for applause, she's coming back with authority. And let that ring, my friends, because the woman who once felt invisible, who sat in the silence, who questioned her worth with every unanswered text and half-hearted connection, she's not waiting anymore, and she's walking back in. But not like before, not with hunger in her eyes, not with emptiness in her touch. Now she walks in full. And not the kind of full that needs to be loud about it, the kind of full that makes people pause when she enters a room because the air feels different now. She's not asking to be completed. She's not a half waiting for a better half. She's a whole damn force. And if love shows up now, it'll be met by a woman who isn't asking, do you see me? But can you meet me where I already stand? This is what it means to return, not as the same version that begged to be chosen, but as someone who knows deep in her bones that being seen starts with seeing yourself. No more twisting yourself into shapes to fit someone else's mold. No more accepting crumbs and calling it a meal. You've fed yourself truth. You've watered your roots in silence, and now you bloom without needing a single spectator. If love comes now, it's not compensation for loneliness. It's not a trophy for waiting. It's a mutual offering, a sacred exchange. Because she doesn't love to fill a void. She loves from overflow, and maybe they'll say she changed. Yes, she did. Because the woman who walked through the fire of being unseen doesn't come back the same. She doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She chooses. She is no longer waiting for the world to find her. She's found herself. And when she walks into love now, it's with open eyes, steady hands, and a heart that no longer flinches at the thought of being alone. And so press that like button if you're walking this road. Subscribe if you've ever felt unseen but knew deep down you were becoming something rare. Because this isn't the end, my friends, and this is the return. And the woman who returns whole, she doesn't ask for space, she takes it. If you felt unseen, unheard, or unchosen, know this: it wasn't a setback. It was a sacred setup for your return. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt. And when you rise from silence, you don't come back needing love. You come back embodying it. So if this message stirred something real in you, like this video, subscribe for more truth that honors your depth, and share this with another woman who's walking her way home in the dark. Because the world doesn't need more perfect women. It needs more awakened ones. Stay grounded, stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.